just follow the way it is. So this is going to be just a very short slideshow, only a few pages, few slides rather. And this unit, you're going to end up seeing, talks a lot about happiness. Okay? So we're going to be studying happiness. Okay? That's a lot of this topic. Now, the truth is that this topic is really not just happiness. Really, is another term which is more generic, which we're going to get into in a second. But these are the learning targets. Hopefully, we'll get to.
Did you finish the other slide?
Yeah.
That sensation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What
Okay.
assignment are you doing?
So we're up to, again, let's just make sure. This is not an assignment. This is just a little PowerPoint presentation to get us started with this unit. You'll see we're after the slide of sensations, we did those two. We're now up to where it says new material study of happiness. Okay, and then we're gonna hopefully do a couple of these. Right, a lot of the assignments are not so long, right? But we'll do a little research on it and we'll discuss it, and hopefully it'll go well. I don't know. We'll see how it works. Okay. So anyway, defining happiness, understanding the nature and nurture aspects of happiness, understanding happiness as a learned phenomenon, exploring the concept of flow as a way of increased happiness, examining the neurological dimensions of happiness. So after all said and done, we're going to learn everything you ever want to know about happiness, and we're also, I didn't put this in, but the next 13 assignments after this, 12 or 13, are going to relate to stress and how that's also somehow connected, how to be able to address those particular concerns. So the real topic that we're focused on for this unit is called positive psychology. So this is the entirety of the term that we are going to be focused on. So again, in this umbrella, we talk about happiness and stress and anxiety, but it really falls under what's called positive psychology, a subfield of psychology that focuses on to help human beings prosper and lead happy lives. Okay? Sounds like it's not such a terrible thing to learn about. Psychology's focus before, this is just a little bit of some history, before World War II was threefold. One, curing mental illness. Two, making the lives of all people more fulfilling. And identifying and nurturing high talent. After the war, psychology's focus shifted to curing mental illness. Medical approach, the DSM-V is a helpful tool for psychologists in identifying and treating mental disorders, which we talked a lot about previous. So that is just a little bit of a backdrop. That picture, but you can see over here on the bottom, Seligman describes the goal of positive psychology as, quote, to catalyst the change in psychology from a preoccupation only with repairing the worst things in life to also building the best qualities in life. Pretty interesting. Not repairing the bad only, but also to build on the good. So let's just see what it says over here. There's only one more slide of that. 40,000 labels for what is wrong with people. There's 4,000 labels for what is right about individuals. That's a pretty unbelievable. There's more ways to be able to describe when things are going wrong than when things are going right. In the last 100 years, there have been 8,000 papers on anger, 58,000 papers. I'm not talking about from a high school student. These are talking about empirical data written by peer-reviewed work on a postdoctorate level, possibly on college level. 71,000 on depression. A lot of articles and papers about anxiety, tons about anger, tons about depression, and only 850 articles on joy and 3,000 on happiness. Why do you think that is? what's your thoughts? Why is there so many articles, so much discussion, so much research on anger, anxiety, and depression? Hard to see this at the bottom. And so few articles and research about joy and happiness. What do you think, Corey?
Well, like those feelings of, like those negative feelings, anger, anxiety, depression can be much more strong and intense than those of happiness, and are much more, unfortunately, much more people experience like the ratio of feelings of like anxiety to happiness is like much more, so it's much more focused on, and people relate to it more, because happiness can be a much more general thing, but anxiety and those other things are much more expressed by a lot of people suffer.
Rebecca, what are your thoughts on it?
What I thought, but happiness, people want to know why they don't really want to know why they're happy.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of like what I was saying, that people are more interested in being able to stop like those feelings of anxiety instead of really like how to keep the feelings of happiness. Like you're usually, when you want to be happy, you don't think let me research how I can be happy. It's more, how can I stop being sad.
Is that, or that's basically covered? Is that it?
Can you clear your throat?
Similar thoughts, but however you frame it, it is a fact that there is more study on this. But that's not going to stop us from learning positive psychology. We're not going to be learning negative psychology. Right? It's not called negative psychology. Maybe that's what we've been learning the whole year until this point. I don't know. But there is no such term. The term positive psychology, again, is this focus on happiness, joy, and we're going to be focusing a lot of our time for the next solid month on this topic of positive psychology. Now, this is extremely hard to see, and it's hard to analyze unless it's in front of you. I think this is the last slide I have for this. Yeah. So, happiness, an individual's assessment of his or her life satisfaction. That's an unbelievable definition. So, happiness, according to this definition, I cannot tell you whether you are happy or not. It's your own individual assessment. Make sense? Interesting? So a person is, you don't look like you're very happy, but if you're being honest and true to yourself, and you say, no, I really am genuinely happy, whatever that word, the word happy in itself needs a definition probably too, but it is truly your own feeling. It's your assessment. How do you feel? Is this the way I feel right now? Am I happy or not? Now, let's look at this. How happiness is measured. Now, obviously, we're going to spend a lot of time analyzing how a person is happy. So you have, and we're just going to touch upon it very briefly, positive effect, negative effect, and life evaluation. So these are actual ways that you can determine whether you're happy. You can just say, well, I'm happy, right? Or there's ways of being able to analyze your situation in your life. All right, and then again, it goes through different factors that determine happiness. So a set point, which means like this is your baseline, this is just who you are. Intentional activity, that you make an effort to be happy. And then sometimes life circumstances, which means like things that happen to you, things that are out of your control.
Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
Exactly. So that's your choice. But sometimes
Sort of.
life circumstances,
You're on the right track.
you're not happy. And by the way, because of life circumstances, it's normal and natural under certain times not to be happy. You should not be happy all the time. If something happens to you, which naturally should be devastating or whatever it may be, so that's a natural response, and that's a healthy way of thinking. there's nothing wrong with not always being happy, okay? Especially when it comes to life circumstances. But yes, Mike is correct that obviously we want to try to make the best of the situations that we're in. And it says over here, 40% of our happiness is within our locus of control. So there's internal and external locus of control. You guys are familiar with that term? Locus of control? So
No, I don't think I've heard it though.
Very simply, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just because it's here, it's an entire mindset.
I don't have anything.
There's some people that say, terrible school, I live in a terrible neighborhood, so I'm not happy. There's nothing I can do about it, right? So that's someone who feels external locus of control, that they're not in control of their lives. Everything around them controls them, which is unfortunate because is that person really going to change? It's hard for them to change because they don't think they're capable of changing. Internal locus of control is I can control my own happiness. I can control my life. I'm in control of my life. No matter what life throws at me, no matter what my environment is, I can still make a decision to live a good life, whatever that means. Okay, that's someone who has internal locus of control. That's nothing to do with even happiness. That's just in general. There are two different types of people in life. Okay, Jody, you catching that? There's some people that are victims and say, well, look at me, it's not my fault. And maybe it's not entirely your fault, but it kind of is also because you can still change, you can still improve, you can still live a better life if you so desired to make those changes. But it's much easier to do something else. You know what that is? Nothing. It's easier to sit around and say, I'm not doing anything. It's everyone else's fault. But the problem with that is, look where you're going to be in 10 years, in the same spot. You're not going to have grown. You're not going to have improved your life. You'll just be bitter and miserable and pointing fingers at the whole world. I've shared you this thought before. Whenever you point the finger at someone, you know the rest of this expression? I must have said this to you before, right?
You're pointing the finger at yourself.
Whenever you point a finger, 3 fingers are pointing back at you.
Oh my
Point a
god.
finger at someone, 3 fingers are pointing at you. So it's always unless you go like this, right? It's like, point like that. It's all you. But the idea,
It's all on me.
The idea
With her, I try
is that again,
somebody cool.
taking responsibility for yourself, and we're going to analyze, and I'll just say it very quickly, and then we'll move on. Is our founding fathers brilliantly wrote the words that we wish for life, liberty, and happiness. No, life, liberty, and what?
Pursuit of
Pursuit of
happiness.
happiness. Very
The
interesting.
mistake, you gotta change.
So what does that mean? When you pursue something, are you sitting there and allowing it to come to you?
No, you're
chasing
taking that
after.
step.
You're chasing
You're
after
taking
it.
the initiative.
Which
I
is-
chase
which is
after Joe.
the idea of internal locus of control, saying, I wish to go after something, and pursue it. Okay? It's a very fascinating approach. By the way, and we'll analyze this, but it doesn't even necessarily claim that in this country you'll have life, liberty, and if you pursue it, you'll get to happiness. Perhaps happiness is an elusive feeling that you have to continuously go after. It's not that you're going to just grab hold of it and that's it. It's something that, even if maybe you do have happiness, perhaps it's something that you have to constantly be proactive to continue to ensure that continues in your life. So over here we have different countries that are ranked, but it's old, so that's why I'm not interested in it. Okay, but this is what this is. And we're going to be, I didn't ask you to do anything for this except for you to listen, and I appreciate that you did. So with that said, to continue, now start going into some continues in your life. So assignments, materials. So this one is called happiest countries in the world. However you frame instruction, it is a whole bunch of questions for you. So we're going to begin with a video about some of the happiest countries in the world. And then after that, we're going to go to this. All right, so let's look at these 6 questions is what I'm going to be asking you to answer for this assignment. And we're going to be doing it together. What are the criteria to determine happiness according to this recent study, which we didn't get to? That'll be the second thing we'll see. Which criteria do you think is missing from this list? Where does Israel rank on this list? Do you agree with this ranking? Where does the United States rank on this list? Again, the happiest countries in the world. Why is Afghanistan ranked so low? That's a thought process, which we'll get to in a second. And what was the most surprising to you based on this data? So I really did a beautiful job, except I misspelled the word happiest. Okay. All right. So with that said, we're going to go, and as you can probably imagine, this is a topic that's discussed at such great length. See, I put over here happiest kids, not just happiest.
Is
Okay.
that you?
I am. This is one of the happiest countries in the world, and I'm a happy person. Thank goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to see. I want to make sure it's not the one that's too long. I believe this is the one. Okay, this is 10 minutes. Is that too long for you guys? For you guys to listen to? Okay. All right. So let's watch this 10-minute video. Okay.
Oh, I think it started. Oh.
Yeah, I think because I was watching it before. I was betting it a little bit.
Explore together.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Since 2002, the World Happiness Report has been figuring out which countries are the happiest. Researchers look at the Gallup polling data from 149 countries over the last 3 years, focusing on 6 specific factors to decide which countries are the happiest. Gross domestic product
So
per capita,
some of this is
social
gonna,
support,
some of this,
healthy life expectancy.
some of this is going to be also on the next link. Okay, Card. So, even though these are the things that they're going to be looking at. Again, gross domestic product per capita. You guys know what that means?
Yeah,
It's like an economics term. What?
Certain,
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, per capita is each individual how much goods and services are consumed by an individual. So if you live in a country where there's a ton of affluence, so the gross domestic product, domestic was within this country, is obviously high. If you're in a very poor country, so it's low. So you can imagine that's a major factor of happiness, is if you have nothing, right? If you don't have basic, essential, physiological needs that you have are not being met, so that's a problem. Social support, which we'll see what that is. Healthy life expectancy, which is a very important concept. It's not just how long you live, it's the quality of those years. A person, God forbid, could be living, I'm saying, God forbid, a long life, but if they're sick during many of those years, that may not that I'm judging a person's quality of life. I can't put a price on anyone's life, but obviously health is extremely important. And when you get older, you realize that even more. Freedom to make life choices, okay? It's freedom, which of course is not limited to the United States, but you could live in a country where you are not even allowed to leave that country. For example, is it North Korea, I believe it is, right?
Iran.
So there's some countries. Generosity of the general population, very interesting. If you see that people are giving, not that you're taking money, but you see that people give and come back, so that's increases happiness. And perceptions, this is what I said before, perceptions of internal and external corruption levels. Okay, we didn't talk about that. Okay, so, and it's an interesting question, why those criteria? This is one of the questions I asked you, is that why these? Maybe there should be something else, but it has to be concrete. It has to be something that can be evaluated and looked at from one country to the next. So it can't just be some basic idea of, how many people, if you ask them, you pull them, are you happy? Right? That in itself may not necessarily give us the concrete answers that we want. We have to look at real data. And the question is, again, are these 6 things really the things that we should be looking at? Let's continue.
Freedom to make life choices. Generosity of the general population, and perceptions of internal and external corruption levels. Here's a list of the top 10 happiest countries in the world. 10. New Zealand. In the 2023 World Happiness Report, New Zealand secured the 10th position with a score of 7.123, marking
Out
its
of 10?
consecutive second-year placement at this rank. Distinguished as one of only 2 non-European countries on the list. New Zealand gained recognition for its picturesque landscapes and natural beauty. Positioned as an island nation with no immediate geographical proximity to other countries, New Zealand's closest neighbor is New Caledonia, situated 2,248 kilometers away.
Those lush green fields.
9. Luxembourg. In 2023, Luxembourg secured the 9th spot in the World Happiness Report, attaining a score of 7.228.
Out of what?
This diminutive European nation, though previously ranked as high as 6th in 2022, experienced a 3-place drop this year. Situated in the heart of Europe, Luxembourg is landlocked and shares borders with Germany, Belgium, and France. Despite its small size, with a population of only 655,112 people, according to the UN.
Why?
It is the tiniest country on this list in terms of total area, covering just 2,586 square kilometers.
I know it's a little bit slow, I'm sorry.
It's okay though.
8. Switzerland.
Schweiz.
Switzerland holds the 8th position with a score of 7.240.
What is it out of?
Notably, this marks the most significant decline in happiness within the top 10. As Switzerland was ranked 4th in the preceding year, 2022. Similar to Luxembourg, Switzerland is a landlocked country.
No.
Renowned for its picturesque mountains, ski resorts, delectable chocolate, and financial institutions.
Oh yeah, that's what Seth says.
Switzerland maintains its reputation as a neutral nation. 7. Norway.
There's Oslo.
Norway secures the 7th position in the World Happiness Report with a score of 7.315. Marking a weak improvement from its 8th position in 2022. As the initial mention of the Scandinavian nations in this list. Norway shares an extensive border with Sweden, renowned for its stunning fjords and captivating northern lights.
It's a little slow, sorry about that. Hopefully
It's okay, it's nice.
Norway stands as a sought-after tourist destination.
Kind of
6.
curious, man.
Sweden.
That was a good one. Yeah, I love picture.
Sweden achieved the 6th position in global happiness,
Global history?
attaining a score of 7.395.
3?
This represents a climb of 1 place from its 7th position in 2022. Famous for being the birthplace of ABBA, the home of IKEA, and the origin of numerous outstanding metal bands. Sweden is also celebrated for its abundant forests and lakes.
This is the reason why I've canceled my doorbell camera subscription.
Why?
This is brand new subscription.
1v1 me
Alright, it's 5 more minutes long.
that luscious.
The Scandinavian nation boasts nearly 100,000 lakes, and approximately 70% of its land area is reported to be covered in forests and woods.
Anyone been in any of these 5 countries so far?
I wish, maybe.
5. Netherlands.
Sweden?
This was actually I've been there. Who kept it on Thursday.
To where?
In 2023,
So
the
sad.
Netherlands secures the 5th spot in global happiness.
I went to Amsterdam on November 22nd.
Wait, what is this one?
Earning a score of 7.403 in the World Happiness
I've been there.
Report.
Yeah, I went there. I think they
Corey hasn't been there.
Impressively, this marks the nation's 2nd consecutive year in the top 5. Renowned for its iconic windmills, traditional clogs, and vibrant fields of multicolored poppies. The Netherlands is also distinguished as the location of the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court,
Yeah.
both situated in The Hague. 4. Israel.
Oh, I've been there. Alex.
Happiest country globally, obtaining a score of 7.473.
Love that channel.
That's Tikwa. That's how they spell it.
Notably, this marks a significant ascent from the 9th position in the top 10 since the 2022 edition of the report.
Yeah.
Considered one of the more unexpected entries in the top 10, Israel faces numerous diplomatic challenges and stands as one of only 2 nations outside of Europe on the list.
Yes. Go Alex.
Amazing. So now she could come all together.
Okay.
Get out.
Stop.
You
You gotta stop.
Iceland. Iceland secures the 3rd position as the 3rd happiest country globally, earning a score of 7.530. Impressively, this
was
marks
quite
the
funny,
2nd
man.
consecutive year that Iceland has held the 3rd place ranking.
Number 1.
Notably, Iceland stands as the smallest country on this list in terms of population, with a mere 375,436 residents on the island nation. Renowned for its geysers, volcanic eruptions, and being the birthplace of the iconic musician Björk.
Who the hell is Bjork?
Oh, Bjork?
Stop. You don't know Bjork. You're not an OG. You're not a skibbity like me.
No, you know who's actually my son? Monastery.
Who?
I'm mama
Iceland continues to captivate with its unique attributes.
Horse. Horsey.
2. Denmark. Denmark claims the 2nd spot as the 2nd happiest country globally,
I've been to Denmark.
receiving a score of
Yes, I have.
7.586 from the World
No,
Happiness
I didn't.
Report.
Tiger once.
Remarkably,
No, I went to.
this marks the 4th consecutive
I was
year
in
that Denmark has been
I was
bestowed
in
with the
Copenhagen
title
for
of
like
second
3
happiest
weeks.
country in the world.
Wait, say it again?
Copenhagen.
He went on this massive roller coaster.
I was there. Doctor. Yes, stop. I was there, Doc. In Denmark, yeah.
As another Scandinavian nation,
Yeah. I've been there.
Denmark holds the distinction of being
And there, I've been there too.
international,
I hate you. I hate you. You gotta stop.
Like he's never left the state of New York.
including
Stop,
NATO,
stop.
the UN, Nordic Council,
Stop.
OECD,
You guys are such not nice people.
Dude,
I saw the video about
Yeah?
So,
You know what? Not young.
here we go. Number 1.
Ah.
1.
Rebecca
Finland.
was correct.
According to the World Happiness
Number
Report
1 happiest
2023,
people in
Finland
the
maintains its position as the happiest country on Earth. The report awards Finland an overall score of 7.804.
It's crazy. Like the
Renowned for being the homeland of Santa Claus.
There we go.
What? Santa Claus?
Santa Claus only a certain
The habitat of reindeer and globally acclaimed for its love of flowers.
Hello.
You spelled it.
Alright, the video was a little bit slow. I do apologize for that.
You got with
Okay,
that.
so we saw a little video just to begin in a nice relaxed manner before we start moving quicker. Now we're going to go to the following link and answer the questions below. So let's look at this link, okay, which is taken
Link
from the
from Legend of Zelda.
worldpopulationreview.com.
Play that game.
Okay, and not gonna watch this,
love that.
but you'll see.
Give me your Google.
Okay.
How did they get these numbers?
you go
Did
squeeze
they
your
just go around
touch that.
asking people?
I actually put my mouth on it.
It's a good question, exactly how. This is the.
Oh my god, you can see how unhappy Australia is.
We would've still made it.
I want to show you.
Yeah, so it is worthwhile.
What's that?
It is worthwhile looking for a second at this map, so you can see the World Happiness. And again, you can go to. We're not going to do so, but you can go to any country in particular.
America is really unhappy.
And interestingly enough, yeah, if you look at the United States, in the World Happiness ranking
Open on this.
of 2024, it's at number 23. Not so bad, right, Mike? You're 23 in the
Yeah,
United
Mike.
States.
I don't think so. I don't think that's too good.
Of course, if we go to, where can I find Israel?
I didn't know she was a real person.
Somewhere around here, correct? Can I
That
find
was a
it
good
here?
rebuttal. I'm so scared.
Oh, here we
Guess-
go.
guess what?
Israel.
I can't pull
So
up that
according
one
to
on my
this, it's actually ranked here. I don't know if you can see that. Number 5.
He's so good.
Okay. So the United States is 23. Canada, is Canada happy or less happy? 15.
That's pretty
Kind of-
good.
Okay.
Kinda.
Mexico 25. Okay, so
Mexico.
Stop.
pretty interesting. You can go in here and you can look at every single place. So
I don't think you have the right to say that.
anyway, so again,
How would the US 23 when there's like all the countries in Africa?
the 23rd happiest. Don't you think the countries in Africa should be happier?
Yeah, look
According
at
to
the
study?
map.
Well,
Ben, Africa, they don't have food or water. Why would they be happy? They're dying, Ben.
And Mr. Beast
so for example,
Wait, isn't it the darker it is, like the more happy?
I think
No, man.
No, like-
means how far.
down
Oh,
was
shit.
it?
Oh.
Yeah, that's what it means. So for example, if you look
I got a
at,
mushroom.
well, let's say
Where's the
Morocco.
mushroom?
Where's Morocco here? It's 107. Okay, Morocco. As opposed to if you go to, I don't know, let's go to the Congo, 139.
Oh my god.
Ethiopia, 130, etc. So let's just spend a few minutes looking at this. Okay?
Pakusha.
Yeah. Happiness is measured in 6 categories, as we said already. So this is going to answer your question. This is going to be, guys, hope you're going to be answering these questions as we go through this. Including GDP per capita, social support, health and life expectancy, among others. As we said, Finland is ranked as the happiest country in the world. Denmark, Switzerland, close behind. You guys hear me in the back?
Yeah.
The World Happiness Report has used statistical analysis to determine the world's happiest countries. In its 2021 update, the report concluded that Finland is the happiest country in the world.
The
To
Finns.
determine the world's happiest country, researchers analyzed comprehensive polling data from 149 countries in the past 3 years, specifically monitoring performance in 6 particular categories, as we said before: gross domestic product per capita, social support, health and life expectancy,
bag.
freedom to make your own life choices, generosity of the general population, and perceptions of corruption levels.
Oh, my
Okay?
bad.
So, it says over here, the least happy,
No. Sorry.
all right?
Yes.
The least happy country in the world
Some senior
was
guys.
Afghanistan, whose 149th place, ranking of 2.5,
Yeah, I wonder
can
why.
be attributed in part to low life expectancy rate and low gross domestic product. It's worthwhile to note that the report was released before the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan,
Oh, it is.
which will impact future, etc. Okay. So you have over here again this chart, and over here we have Israel is 1, 2, 3, 4 actually. Okay. But again, you have Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Israel, and then
Hey.
you can continue to study the top 10.
You see that?
And it's kind of interesting, by the way. This is I found this the most interesting for those that are listening. Israel is number 4, right? You have Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Israel, Netherlands. You see this? And then it talks about each one. It talks about Finland, it talks about Denmark, it talks about Switzerland, it talks about Iceland. And guess what? Which country does it not talk about? It doesn't mention Israel.
Oh.
Isn't it interesting?
It's kind of
It's
sus,
4 to
Doc.
1. So let's just, which is why I want you need to think about it. And but let's just read what it says about Finland, and then maybe one more. Finland ranks as the happiest country. The report writers credited the citizens of Finland's strong feelings of communal support and mutual trust with not only helping secure them in ranking, but also navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, Finlanders felt strongly that they were free to make, hold that thought, okay? Free to make their own choices and showed minimal suspicion of government corruption. Okay. And then again, you can look at all of them. Look at Iceland. Iceland is the 4th happiest of the top 7 happiest countries. Iceland has the highest feeling of social support. Iceland also has the 2nd highest generosity score in the top 7, so it's worth noting, ranked only 11th. And that's basically that. And again, if you scroll, you'll finally get to, where's the United States?
Right there. You passed it. Right there. 23, right there.
23.
21.
Let's see if,
Can you do something for
so
me?
let's see what, so again, you can look at this. So you have over here this chart, okay? What is this chart?
Whoa.
So we have over here the year of the population. So it just tells us how many people are in the United States. That's all this does. Interesting, by the way, you can just see the growth in this country from 1950, right? 150 million. We're at over 340. So from 1950 to our current state, the United States has over doubled in population.
It's due to obesity. I don't know, man.
So this basically all it does is talk about that. I don't know if this has much more information that we're looking for.
What is
Demographics, okay. So this is not really relevant to what we need to look at. All right, but again, hopefully gives us a little bit of a perspective of, again, how some countries fare as far as happiness is concerned. Okay, so again, we can scroll, and that's basically what this site is. So let's just listen to your thoughts, because you need to write them down and submit these answers. Well, let's just hear what your thoughts are. What are the criteria? Okay, so this we already know. What are the criteria to determine happiness according to this recent study? Did you guys know what they are? Let me just scroll up over here and make sure that in case you didn't write it down, then you'll be able to do so. And I'm going to call on Corey to remind us, but it's going to be somewhere on this page.
Yeah, so
Right over here.
gross domestic product per capita,
Good.
social support,
Yep.
healthy life expectancy, freedom to make life choices, generosity of the general population, perceptions of internal and external corruption levels.
Good. So, very good, Corey. So, I want to make sure, does everyone see that? These are the 6 criteria to determine how they determine happiness. So, let's just digest this one last time. Gross domestic product has to do with, again, how much goods and services. The United States, would you say it has a high gross domestic product or pretty low? United States, you think we have a lot
No.
consumption per person?
A big.
So,
Yeah.
freedom to make your own life choices. Would you say the United States has
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Not so much?
Our
What I'm
economy
trying
is
to
based
get
on-
at is why is the United States not one of the top 3? Why is it
You're
over
sad.
there? Generosity of the general population. Would you say
No.
that people in this country are generous to one another and think
I don't
about
really
each
think so,
other,
no.
and they have close connections to one another?
I think in other countries, especially like Israel, there's more of a connection between person to person.
So that could be one where the United States is quite low. And that was, what did I do? I only did 3. Social support. So that's maybe what you were talking about as well.
Yeah.
Israel is pretty
That's kind of
strong
like the
there.
same, like, yeah.
Healthy life expectancy in the United States. You
Not
think it's-
Well,
quite.
we do have a high obesity rate, but
Yeah. This generation, I know.
So Israel actually has a higher healthy life expectancy because
That's
it
the
is-
second rule in the army.
But it's also because like
I get
people
the
just
whole
less
thing.
than healthy.
Yeah,
Less
like they
Could be right.
better.
perceptions of internal and external corruption levels. People feel that the government is corrupt. Again, that's the problem with a lot of other countries, in the hundreds, is that they're living in places where there's a lot of corruption, which maybe not as significant in the United States. All right. So, did that help? Thank you, Corey, for question 1. Let's move on. Which criteria do you think is missing from this list? What else do you think, Lena, could be on that list? Maybe.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure if it would fit into anything we just talked about. but I'm
Listen,
thinking,
please.
like allies, maybe.
Guys, 1 second. I need to
Allies?
hear this. What?
Yeah, like I'm thinking allies. The other countries and help out each other, like worldwide.
We're on the right track.
What we talked about in global class. And it would just like if a country had more allies, it would be like a safer place to live in, and other countries would be protected.
That's a good answer. I like that. Rebecca, you have another thought?
This is kind of like Lena's, but like perception.
So why are we saying it then?
If a country has like less threats, and like not worried as much, then
Can get up.
like the lower that score
Let
is,
me up.
then like the happier the people are.
Okay. Any other thoughts over here? Anything that you would add to this list? So we heard they're close. Anything that perhaps you would think could be added to this list in order to judge happiness in a particular country? Okay, let's move on to number 3. Okay, yeah. Wait,
If it's snowing and it's really sad out, but it's like,
right.
Anthony Volpe
Which
hit
by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that, Zach, because it's interesting because Iceland, is only in the top 5. It's cold, and in the winter, it's dark for like 24 hours. You know, it's
but you also have like those natural pools and stuff.
beautiful. Right? It's a beautiful
It's like a
country.
tourist attraction place, and imagine living there.
But I'm wondering if somehow you could figure out how we value the weather, that maybe Iceland wouldn't be so high up. It's a very good point. Which is why, again, people in Iceland are literally living in pitch black for months at a time.
It's scary,
There's no sunlight.
I don't like it.
In the winter months, which is why they can the attraction is to see the northern lights, but still. So that's a very good point, Zach. I like that as well. Okay, number 3. Now there's there's 1 or 2 rankings we saw. They're pretty up there. Where does Israel rank on this list? Do you agree with this ranking? Why or why not? Go ahead. What do you think?
I agree. I think that Jews in general, and specifically people.
So where was it? At 4?
Yeah, I think it was at
3,
4.
4, 5.
I think the reason why we're so happy is like we've learned to like deal with our problems and still like be happy. And I think in like other countries they just like in the United States, if there's a problem, it kind of everyone is like solution. But in Israel, like I feel like you jump onto the problem and you like grab it and like really tackle the problem and without like just being depressed. And it's also I think also there's a lot of family connection in Israel, and like family is very valued, and like things like Shabbat dinner and stuff like that, when you have time to be with your family and spend time with them and like stay connected with them, is something that in the United States there's really a lack of.
Okay. So you agree where it should be placed? Pretty high up.
Yeah.
Anyone
I'd say so.
anyone disagree with the placing? Okay, Corey, what do you think about
I want to add on to what Mikey said.
Right.
Compared to
The
like the
cutie.
nations around it, Israel's really developed and built itself into like this oasis in the Middle East. It's just extremely advanced, and there's a lot going for it. Very strong, independent, successful, and all that. So,
Yeah, with all the startups and like
it's a flourishing nation, and a big influence.
I've heard you.
framing it.
I've heard you say that
And,
several times.
No, I swear.
I tend to agree with everything you said. Which, by the way, as a sidebar, a little tangent, very quickly.
Little
You know, in the current circumstance that Israel is being so heavily scrutinized throughout the entire world, it is worth noting. It would be interesting if people would actually realize the stat of how happy people who live in Israel are. Very fascinating. That people who live in Israel, which by the way, like it's not only Jewish people, because I guess Israel has 2 million Muslims that live in
Yeah, I
Israel,
think there are a lot.
something that number. But
Give or
they're
take.
still, it's an interesting point. Guys,
It's also written out like online. I've seen people who say like, oh, in the 75 years, Israel has killed the Palestinian land and made them suffer. And like, that's not how it works because like, look at the happiness. They're all happy.
exactly.
Right.
Very well put. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to question 4. Where does the United States rank on this list? Do you agree with this ranking? Why or why not? Guys,
Sorry.
we appreciate your participation, but
Sorry.
it's a mixed bag over here. Yes, Lena?
So the United States is number 23 on the happiness list.
Yep.
And I guess I agree with it. Because like I feel like the United States is known for its freedom, and I feel like we're very like economically developed, like everything like technology, just everything. But I feel like we're also like a little bit like politically divided, and that is very problematic. I feel like I don't know though. I don't know a lot about this, so I don't really want to say anything. So I don't really know much, but I feel like that.
Kind of ironic, huh? That we're the United States.
More like a
No, it's a very valid point. Now, I mean, you can't argue with where the number falls, but again, you may say, well, the criteria are not really the way to define the happiness of a country. But assuming that you do, then clearly we see the United States is not anywhere near the top 10 or even the top 20. Go ahead.
I think also what we were talking in our Hebrew class, we were talking about the idea of like how the United States and Israel compare with family life and like nationalism and how much pride people have in their own country. And I think the difference is that in the United States, there's pride in your own country in the United States, but there isn't like a connection from like person to person. While in Israel, everyone's more connected with one another, and I think that also is why the United States falls below. And there's also just more people, which leads to more problems. Like in the United States, you have a lot of obesity, and like what was Lena was saying, like there's a big political divide, which I think is also a bit of an issue. Not necessarily so.
I'm wondering, and this is not we're up to question 5, but before I get to question 5, upon studying this information, we live in the United States, but we also have a very strong emotional connection to Israel. Upon reading this, does anyone conclude, you know what, why should I live in a country where, what'd you say, it was number 23?
Yeah.
Why should I live in a country where happiness is 23? Isn't happiness really one of the more important things that I should be aiming for in my life? Maybe I should try to move to Israel or to another country like Finland or the like, where happiness is much higher. So why should I live in a country where it has a lower rating? Maybe I should move to a country which has a higher rating. Is that a logical way of thinking? Why or why not? What do you think, Jamie? What do you think?
You don't think?
So you could be living in Finland or Israel or Iceland and be miserable. And you can live in the United States
Or Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Nice way of putting it.
She actually lived in
And
Pakistan.
somehow have happiness. So it's really at an individual level, we're just looking at a whole bunch of people. That doesn't necessarily mean that you yourself will necessarily even be happier moving to another country, right? Because there are other factors, like Zach said, the weather, maybe also family. Yeah, happiness is higher ranked in Israel, but I have all my family in the United States. So I'm going to move to Israel. Maybe they'll visit me once a year. I won't be able to see my families, my extended family as much. So it's not necessarily is the answer to your questions of pursuing happiness is not necessarily achieved by going to these happier countries necessarily. Yes.
I think it's also like it comes down to what you prioritize more, because the happiness like rating is built on a lot of different aspects, and so one person might need their like country to have a strong economy, while the other person might need good weather, like Zach was saying. So it really comes down to, when it comes to personal preference, I think it comes down to like specifically which factor is important to you, and then based on that is just because it's in general a happier country, I don't think that it necessarily means that you should move there.
And so in other words, these 6 criteria that were mentioned, maybe they all have equal weight in general in this assessment.
Yeah.
But for you personally, you know,
one might outweigh the other.
One of them you don't really care as much about.
It's an interesting one.
And one you really care a lot about. So just because your country may be ranked low, that's because it's not focusing on the things that you really focus on for your own happiness. Question 5: why is Afghanistan ranked so low, Jamie? Yeah.
I don't know much about
Yeah, both thoughts are correct. So that has a very low gross domestic product per capita. It's a fancy way of saying they're poor, right? And as you said, there's tremendous turbulence, issues as far as the country, the government. The language that was framed is that there's like corruption, but in general, which you would probably say would be a good definition of the Taliban or any other types of such organizations. So those are definitely good answers to that question. How much freedom do you think women have over there, by the way? Lots?
They have to wear burqa. We read an article in Hebrew about this. You want to explain?
No, that's all you.
That's fine, okay.
Yeah, we read an article that kind of talked about how they didn't really have like education rights, or like they had to always wear like the what's it called? The burqa.
Head coverings and the like.
And it's scary. You know? We read I Am Malala, which was about Malala Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai, and how she like was like one of the advocates for that in, I think it was Pakistan though, but I think they kind of were ruled both by the Taliban, which was a really interesting book to read. I can speak for my class.
Okay, question 6. What was the most surprising thing that you saw based on this data? Anything stand out? Any countries stand out? Any information stand out? You have to have some answer to this. You can't say nothing. Nothing is not the correct answer. You have to tell me one thing that you found which was somewhat unusual about a particular country or a particular. Yes, Lena, thank you.
I think it's a little bit surprising how high Israel is, because I think that economically and socially it thrives. I think it's a very beautiful country with technology, and like Mikey said, everyone knows each other. But I feel like I've always learned that Israel struggles with its allies, and I'm just shocked that I'm not sure if this website took that into account, or if it's really just not that bad and I'm just being stupid. But I don't know, I'm just a little shocked about how it's number 4. It's really nice to hear that, but I just don't think that way.
And I would imagine if you would ask an average person on the street, which country do you think would rank higher, United States or Israel? An average person on the street, I guess most would probably say United States.
For sure.
For sure.
Israel would be like, Israel? For sure not. But that's the data. So that indeed would be a very acceptable answer. Anything else strike a chord? Anything surprising? Any information? Any country? Any thoughts about this last question? Okay, so the period does end a few minutes later, all right? We end at 12:34. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to clean this up. And I'm going to say that this is due on Wednesday.
Clean
And
up.
then we'll move on to the next topic about, I think the next one is finding a happy job, the happiest jobs. I believe that's the next one. Yeah. We're gonna study what jobs are the happiest jobs, and which jobs maybe you should stay away from, or maybe not. So I'm just gonna pop in over here.
Doctor, I have a question. Like a personal question. Do you go by Brad out of school?
I guess it is personal because it's about me, right?
Yeah, that's why.
It depends. In college, I go by Professor Tomsky, but on my syllabus it says Bradford, because that's on my birth certificate.
Oh. Yeah, it is.
But otherwise, most people know me as Boaz.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
That was personal.
but here I go by Dr. Tomsky.
Doctor.
Or Sir.
Girl.
How about Tomsky? Dr. Tomsky. Yeah.
That question.
Alright, so I'm gonna just throw in. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you, doctor.
What is it?
I think on social media I'm by Brad.
Mikey.
Most of my social media.
Bilfin means like Bilf.
So this is gonna be due on April 3rd.
Wait, what did Mikey say?
It's not 2 minutes, alright?
Instead of formality, Mikey said formality.
It was a paragraph that had not a single period.
word.
That was not my fault. I'm sorry. What?
Oh, she's like, Hamoga TBY is 64, but she's like 24.
No, she isn't.
What does that even mean? Jamie. Bro, this is the second time in the school.
Good.
Let's try to calm down a little bit. Let's try to be a little bit more calm.
I want to make everything relations out in the bottle wall. I want that. Hamoga is 64, but she's like 24.
Let's try to calm down a little bit. Thank you.
People like that go through others.
I have to memorize the English thing, yeah.
Emma, were you doing ASMR with your apple slices?
No.
I saw for a second you're like eating your apple slices and like your mic was right on the apple.
No.
For snack.
It's actually not ASMR, it's mukbang. It's not what it's called.
Mukbang? That's where you eat like a lot of food. You know who does mukbangs? Nikocado avocado.
Mukbangs, it's not when you eat a lot of food.
You
It's
love
when
Nikocado avocado? You would.
This is Nikocado.
You're the type of person who would watch.
Mukbang is when you eat food. Okay.
Just things.
Alright, well, enjoy your lunch, everybody.
You too, doctor.
Try to be happy.
Likewise, guys.
I see what you did there, Doc. What? Happy birthday, Mr. President.
You gotta make sure.
But you gotta stop and put a leash on this puppy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Garth
Did you just call me a puppy?
Garth calls you my puppy.
If I'm a puppy, then you're a rat.
Mikey, whenever you're not here, Garth comes into my class. And
Yeah,
he says,
brother. Is that true?
Put that every time you talk to me.
What?
Really?
Birthday,
Happy
Mr. Bad.